Stop worshiping celebrities so much. Just don't listen, pay attention. I remember.
Screw your freedom.
Think about the term starstruck for a second. To be fascinated or greatly impressed by famous people, especially those connected with the entertainment industry. Take a quick look at what celebrities can really do to people. These people are literally so obsessed with a celebrity that they're fainting, and this to me has to be a form of magic. And I really mean that when I say magic, because music is a form of sound magic, using frequencies to change our moods or even dictate our actions. These lyrics are spells, and the labels broadcast these lyrical spells to us over and over to the point where we're hypnotized by these entertainers themselves. And man, celebrity worship is so strong to the point where fans will protest for their favorite celebrity, tattoo their names or faces on their bodies, and try breaking into their homes, damn near even create homemade shrines to worship them. A great example of the extreme case of celebrity worship would be the Eminem song titled Stan, the overly obsessed fan who is willing to do anything to get closer to his idol. Now, just like athletes, artists are often used to promote agendas just like any celebrity, whether it's getting the jab or BLM, hell, even climate change. They will damn near say anything if the money is right. When it comes to celebrity worship for today's youth, some of the most influential voices aren't even actors, singers, or an athlete, but simply a TikToker doing little 10-second corny dances promoting brands, drinks, clothing, you name it. And this form of influencer worship is just as real as it is for the more traditional celebrity. When a TikToker pops up at a mall, you'll see hundreds, if not thousands, storm the place screaming and fainting just to get a glimpse or a picture of these individuals. It's literally madness, because with the digital era that we're in, we are constantly being advertised something, and these entertainers are a lot more accessible for us to glamorize and watch.
Stop worshiping celebrities so much. Just don't listen, pay attention.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
All right, cool.
Are we recording? Yes, we are. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. This is Leslie Powers here with Derek Bartolocelli and a wonderful guest for our episode today of Dissolving the Divide. Very happy you're here. Derek, I'm going to let you introduce our guest.
Yeah, Leslie, happy you're here, as well as Cynthia Mitchell at Affirm Life Daily. I love that. It's just, positive mantra to say on the daily, right? And
Yes.
we had a really great chat last year talking about that good old natty law, the science of life, as I like to kind of subtitle it as well. And today we have a interesting topic that really want to appeal to folks that are, more inclined to focus on mainstream things. And over the years, we go wondering why, folks are so obsessed with celebrities and all these magazines talking about their lives, and people spend so much time reading about other people's lives, like all these trivial things matter, and it's like really superficial a lot of times, and the Hollywood, and it's like, holy shit, like
Exactly. They know more about the celebrity's life than their own life.
Yeah.
I think that's very true, sadly. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm curious, Cynthia, what inspired you on this particular topic? Why you felt like this was an important one to talk about today?
Just a lot of stuff that I see, and I'm very selective in who I follow, on social media, but just still what I still end up getting in my feed, and then just interacting with, certain family members and, friends and stuff. And it's just like, there's still this like very, very deeply embedded obsession. And I mean, you can't watch more than an hour of anything on television, you're going to see an ad for some reality show about celebrities or an award show. They celebrate themselves like a million times a year. And it's just, so it's always in your face. And I feel like we take it, as a given, like, oh, that's just part of society. But why is that part of society? Why is that a part of our culture? Why is that been normalized? And should it be normalized?
Good questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems, yeah, especially the trend of the reality TV where they're actually bringing cameras into these celebrities' lives and acting as if they're actually filming them being natural.
Natural, right?
Right.
Like
And
you're natural when there's like a group of people filming you and there's lights and makeup people. Yeah, that's very natural.
very not right. And like unguided, I'm sure.
Right. No, no
Yeah.
script. No script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those fights and brawls were totally, just
Yeah, and some people will like literally get upset with you, mad at you if you question the fact that that's not real. Like, I don't think that's real. What? Da, 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 da. And it's like, seriously? Even if it was, why are you this invested?
right, right. What is it about these people that take on this almost godlike, demigod-like status,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this envy also, it seems like, and this voyeurism. It seems
Yeah.
to be very, very addictive almost.
Yeah, and also I think people really love to see the fall of people too, like the rise and the fall. Like it's so, you know what I mean? It gives them some type of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Like, oh, see, no one gets it really good, and like, it's just like it's all just so outwardly directed for, instead of inwardly. You just lose all inward focus when you
Totally.
focus that much of your energy outward to other people, like you said, that you don't even know these people
Yeah.
at all.
It seems like it's the modern day, like mythological gods or something, It seems very mythological that people are putting these roles of beyond human.
It is. It's very mythological. They're taking on these sacred archetypes for people, and they've taken the place of the gods that used to be worshipped, and now it's just the celebrities that have taken the roles for a lot of people. Absolutely, I agree with you 100% on that.
Fascinating topic.
It is.
And so it's also fascinating to, when you kind of research a little bit behind the curtains, and you kind of realize there's millions, if not billions, of dollars being pumped into just like marketing campaigns and certain narratives to circle around certain quote unquote people's champions.
Yes.
Setting down the primer that people are certain people are propped up as to be like icons, to be idolized in a sense, and there's narratives circling around. There's magazines and all the TMZs and whatever, right? So the talking heads just keep squawking about, and people are still tuning into that stuff. And we wonder, like, well, geez, like we're looking at all this really interesting information talking about natural law and stuff and how to be self-empowered. Why are these people spending so much time on things that don't even matter? And like other people also that are just like, they're just celebrities, like.
Yeah. And like you were saying, some people just kind of like seem like they pop up out of nowhere. And like people don't even recognize like this is like an implant. It's not because they were this super talent or da da da. They chose this person, said we're gonna make this person a superstar, and they have the means to do that so easily to make someone a superstar, whether they're talented really or not. Because I'm like you, Derek. I love music, and I know so many just like amazingly talented artists that no one has like ever heard of ever. And probably never will because they don't want to sell their soul. So they just, stay local or low key or independent or whatever. But
Right. The other interesting part of this is how once certain characters or personas are well known, they often become spokespersons for a political side or a product or a medical procedure, right? Yes, exactly. They're leveraged and planted, I think, to appeal to human they're people who have their affection for those people and have decided they're trustworthy, right? And so it's interesting how much power they can wield that they're not even maybe initiating or even truly, it may not be true what they're saying about that they believe it or not,
Yep.
Yeah.
No, it's very powerful, that the influence that they have. I mean, literally, like look at our culture. I think about like when I was a kid, like literally there's a job now called and just being an influencer. I'm just influencing you. That's like a whole career path, just to influence other people, not to educate other people, not to even to get them to educate themselves or look into something. just to influence them to do whatever it is that you say is the best thing or the most popular thing or the most fantastic thing right now. That's like kind of mind blowing to me that that's a actual like career path.
Right. That's the word that's been chosen to,
Right.
it's very, if you take it literally,
Right.
you really have to recognize it's about them influencing your mind and your thoughts and your emotions, not necessarily telling you the truth. Right.
Exactly. It's like there's always this agenda in the background, but people are just seeing that first surface level. And like you said, they build these false relationships. So like they think this person is like their friend and that they like care about them, personally care about them. Oh, they would never steer me wrong or they would never give me bad advice. This person does not know you. They want money. They're getting money from doing what they're doing. They have sponsors and all of these things. And I'm not saying that, for every case, but I would say for most of them, yeah, it's not about necessarily what they're messaging or what they're selling. It's about how much they can make. So that's going to determine what they're messaging and what they're selling. Not necessarily what's good for you or what's good for the collective or what's, good spiritually or anything like that.
Yeah, well said. And so, I just had a thought, and it obviously, was brewing up, leading up to this conversation, thinking about topics to ask and run by you and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So when we watch movies and TV series and stuff, and they pull our heartstrings, and we're infatuated by certain things and like certain actors that play certain characters, and they represent certain archetypes and stuff. There's like this ego attachment that connects with certain subjects, right? So I think that's part of the reason why there's like this celebrity worship, and how people can be so stringent on supporting certain actors or celebrities or whoever that they're kind of like almost idolize in a sense.
Yes.
Even in willing to overlook some of the stuff that they've been compromised to, or doing whatever stuff they've been blackmailed, blackballed, whatever, right? So
Yeah, and I mean some of the stuff that's overlooked is like pretty, it's big stuff. Like, okay, you're just gonna overlook that rape or that, what I'm saying, whatever. Like, yes, a lot of times it's really big things that we're overlooking, just because we still want to hold this person in high regard. So we kind of just either make an excuse for them. Oh well, it's really hard being a celebrity, and they don't, or just whatever, or they're just out to get them. It's not true, or even when there's tons of evidence. So it's unfortunate because, like I said, all of this energy could really be. I mean, we could be so much further along as a collective humanity if this energy was put somewhere else, because there is so much energy that goes into this. And that was another reason why I really wanted to talk about it, because if we can channel that energy into something meaningful, into something empowering, into something that leads us to sovereignty and freedom, I mean, that would be amazing.
Yeah, and that is a really important question as to why are people putting so much of their energy to this distraction, to this like black hole of endless drama and confusion, really.
Yeah.
And so there's got to be some very deep, psychological reasons, some deeper psychological reasons as to why. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that. And feel free to pull up any of your slides.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because I think I want to get.
Yeah, we do get into that some on these slides. So let me pull that.
Did you want me to pop that up on the screen?
Yeah, because I don't know why. Before it did it.
Yeah. No. I'm the gatekeeper of these. No. Oh, no, they were there.
Oh, they were? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I just had to put them on the display.
Here.
But it's okay.
Do you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. So I have this full screen, so I don't see you guys, but yeah, so this is just kind of the introduction to the slides. So I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss any of the main points that I want to talk about. So I love slides. I fell in love with them through Mark Cassio's work, because I'm a person that I learn much better and take in information if I can both hear it and see it. And I also like to go back and look at stuff and reread it and look it over. So I'm a big slide fan. So it's the slides are the sickness of celebrity worship. And so we're going to talk about how and why celebrityism is destructive to our hearts, our minds, but most importantly, our spirits. And this is on an individual level and as a collective. And we kind of touched on a lot of this already. So first, I really like to define terms so that as we're talking, whoever's watching, we're on the same page and they're not thinking we're talking about something else. So I like to define terms. So I just wanted to define a few terms just to start, as far as like celebrity worship, which is just an extreme feeling of attachment to a celebrity. And I think we all know people in our lives that, participate in celebrity worship. So it just refers to like just unhealthy personal responses to celebrity status. So that can be, someone that, I just really like this person a lot, to like fanatics. Well, that's considered celebrity worship. And then they have this term now in the psychological community called celebrity worship syndrome. So I was looking into that some. So this is an obsessive and addictive disorder where individuals become intensely, very excessively involved in a celebrity's life. We talked about that a little with like these reality shows, and they're just so entrenched in like every little detail, they're sleeping with this person. Oh, they're pregnant. Oh, they're, as if they, as this is a family member, so you get really entrenched in their lives, and it's just becomes a preoccupation because you're worried about, their lifestyle, how they're looking, what the latest story is on TMZ about them. And it really kind of just tracks from your own life. So you see people in, personal distress. They, can't interact socially anymore because everything is about, celebrities and stuff like that. So they don't know they lose a connection, on a real life level with just regular people, and it can affect their work life as well. So the syndrome can be, pretty serious and really lead to an impairment of a person's life when they really get into the celebrity worship too deeply. And then the other term that kept coming up as I was researching this is the stan culture. So I know, Derek, the song "Stan" by Eminem. You probably know it, don't you?
I know the song, but I didn't know the term. So that was a new one for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the song is about an obsessed fan. So they call it stan culture. And a good example of this is Beyonce's Beehive. If you go online and say something about Beyonce and somebody from her Beehive sees it, they will devour you, like literally eat you alive, because it's that stan culture. Like they're so into the celebrity, and it's like a cult following.
Hardcore groupies. No.
Hardcore groupies. Very hardcore, where they like threaten people and all sorts of stuff. I've heard even people actually being physically, attacked, for saying the wrong things about Beyonce.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me real quick of, you see some of those TikTok videos, or even like just like old YouTube videos of when Britney Spears kind of went AWOL, whatever, and you see all these women crying like, "Leave Britney alone," or whatever. Yeah. It's like, oh geez, like y'all are just hurting each other, man. It's like,
yes, I remember that too, because it was like some people that were very hardcore, like, you better not ever say anything about Britney, like, it's like they treat it like it's their child or their mom or their sister. It's that kind of protective energy, but it's for someone that they don't know, and the person doesn't know them either. So if you think about it like that, if you step back, like, that's really strange. But it's definitely a thing. So the other term I want to talk about is just the general celebrityism. So celebrityism is an artificially created social construct that it's not something that occurs naturally. Like, so this is something that's created on purpose, for sure. So in a lot of times, definitely there's, bloodlines and celebrities. You'll see generations and generations of, actors and athletes and stuff like that. But the actual celebrity in and of itself is not real. It just doesn't exist in nature. Yeah. Like squirrels don't have celebrity squirrels. You know what I mean? So
it goes beyond nepotism, huh?
So it's like, it's something that we've created. So it's artificial. It's not naturally occurring in nature. So the celebrity persona, like you were saying earlier, Leslie, it's not even real, the persona you're saying anyway. So it's this carefully constructed and crafted version of this person that people are seeing. So I had AI create this image when I was putting in the information about this, and I love the image that it came up with, because it's like that's what they're doing. They're just building this fake person for you to worship, and they're not even real. They're just putting them together. It's craftsmanship. So I really like that image. And then a lot of people think too of celebrity worship and celebrityism as just, singers, actors, athletes, but this extends far beyond that. Religious leaders, politicians. I mean, they're worshiped like nobody's business now. A lot of these politicians.
It's a very blurred line now between celebrities and politicians. They've totally overlapped those populations.
I agree. It's like you can barely tell the difference a lot of time. And then, like, even the current president, he was a regular celebrity before he became president.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because, like, I was never a fan of him then, and I'm never really been a fan of him, like, since, whatever. It's just like, oh, it's kind of interesting and a little humorous and whatever to see him stir the pot of the political spectrum of things. But, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's like same shit, different smell, and whatever the hell. But anyways, continue. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, I agree with you 100%. I said, this would be really, really funny if it wasn't our life.
I know, right? I mean, we had the Terminator as the governor of California, And what is it, the Wide World Wrestler guy who was
Jesse Ventura was actually more legit, though.
Yeah, more and more. It's just normal now.
Yeah, it is. And I think it just even makes it so much easier for them to be elected because of celebrityism. They are instantly trusted because they were already trusted from being a celebrity.
Yeah.
Is Hulk Hogan going to run for president?
Who?
Hulk Hogan.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. I thought you were for real. I wouldn't be shocked, and I wouldn't be shocked at this point if you won. If you were,
I prefer the Macho Man, but whatever,
Yeah, I'm more of a
Macho Man. Stan, but yeah.
Randy Savage over Hulk Hogan, but yeah, we're there. We're there. I feel like we're there for something like that to easily happen for real. But so this slide is just about why we worship, or why so many people worship celebrities, and we hit on some of these, but we'll stop at each one and we could talk about each one as long as you guys want. So the first one is the programming and the brainwashing. Obviously, that is a big part of why so many people worship celebrities, because it's also used as a distraction. And like you were talking about, influence. They can influence us to do the things that I like to call them the powers that shouldn't be, want us to do, because you have that built-in trust, you have that worship, you have that you want to feel like you're pleasing them, even though they have no idea who you are or that you're doing what they say, but people still want to feel like they're pleasing them, like they're listening. I'm a good worshiper, So I think programming and brainwashing is a big part of getting people in that mind state.
Yeah, and if we're talking about, okay, why would the social engineers of the world want people programmed this way? What is the agenda? What is the advantage to them? Because clearly they're feeding off of this energy somehow. Some of it is financial, a big part of it. I mean, how much money is being spent on fashion that's guided by a celebrity who has a clothing line or a perfume line, or a huge distraction, right, from other things going on. What else do you think? Why is this an advantage to brainwash people or program people to worship celebrities?
Yes, I agree with all the things that you said. And the distraction part is very huge, because you will often notice you'll have some type of big celebrity drama or scandal, or someone will get arrested and get caught doing something that they knew this person's been doing forever.
Drake versus Lamar.
Now they got caught.
Drake versus Lamar.
Exactly. You'll have something like that go on. And in the background, they're like, oh, we're signing all these bills that's, sweeping away more of your rights and more of your freedoms in the background. Or we're going to drop like 6 more extra bombs today on, so-and-so or whatever. And we're all looking this way, and they've done 20 million things that way. and we're all focused on something that matters zero for our well-being as a collective.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge part of it. But like you said, it's also, it gives them money, it gives, power. They can also use that as a way to get us to go along with, to embrace their satanic beliefs, because these celebrities push them. They might wrap it in something that looks really pretty and really da da da, but they push satanic belief systems, which is that inversion of what is holy, inversion of love, inversion of good, inversion of morality.
Yeah. And with that, I think comes a setup to divide people and to, kind of steer like gender issues and
Oh yes.
identity issues, and create divides between men and women and different just different camps, along the way, like you're saying, creating divisiveness, and people pick sides and then become very emotional. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. It's definitely part of the divide and conquer strategy, and it works extremely well. And it really does play into it's funny that you brought that up about the labels and all of the gender roles and all of these things that are so prominent right now. I part of this community, collectively sustainable, and we have they're called authentic dialogues on Sundays, and the last one we talked about was just this, as far as like the LB. I don't want to get it wrong because sometimes I miss some of the letters. The LB, you know what I'm talking about.
LGBTQ plus.
Yes. So we were talking about that, and the point that I made, as I said, people have become more obsessed with labels and roles that they play than they are at actually figuring out who they are for real inside. The label is more important than who you actually even are. They don't even care if they even really for real line up with the label. They just want to be associated with certain labels. They become the label instead of becoming themselves.
Yes. And then if there's a celebrity that they can align with as sort of a almost like an ego that they can attach to have their own sense of self.
Yeah.
I think it does come down to a certain like a paucity of your own, like a lack of people's own sense of self and confidence in self, knowledge of self. You're right.
Yes. We spoke about this in a really great discussion with Mario West titled Identitarianism. She kind of like,
I love that. Oh, I love that. Does she mind if I use that? I love that.
Please, yeah. She'll have no problem with it,
it's a good term.
Yeah, it's a great term. It's perfect.
Yeah. So what I wanted to mention is that, there's all these different flavors out there, and, it's like, take your pick. There's a celebrity for whatever type of genre of music or whatever, right? And so there's like that tribal, mentality and energy behind those, with the stands and groupies and all that stuff, which is why you get like kind of like not the infighting, but the rivalries and all these things sometimes. And it is what it is. Even though it's like, wow, it's like, it was never a competition. Y'all be
right.
I mean, there's, a dime a dozen videos out there always talk about like, oh, who's the goats of whatever the fuck, like y'all are obsessed with, goats and stuff like that. Like, what about you? What are you the greatest of all time in? All right. So shut the fuck up and like do something with your life type of stuff, like,
No, yeah, I get it. It just allows for so much outward projection, and then nothing's going inward. This is all just outward projection onto labels, onto celebrities, onto all these different identities, for every identity except who you actually really are. So yeah, everybody was really receptive to that idea when I brought it up, because it's just so evident in today's world with this complete obsession with identification. And I don't want anyone to think that I'm not bashing anyone's lifestyle. I definitely believe in objective morality. If you're not hurting anybody, I don't give a crap what you do. But it also doesn't need to be where it's like the first thing you say, hi, I'm Cynthia and I'm a heterosexual. Like, why does that even matter? Just get to know me for me, and I'll get to know you for you. I don't have to come to you with 50 million labels up front before you even get to know me.
Well, it's kind of bringing an agenda forward.
It is. It is.
Yeah. The box checking agenda.
Yep. Yep. Which boxes do you check? Oh, you didn't check the right boxes, so you don't fit into my little group. You're out. Yeah. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer.
It's so inclusive, right? Holy
shit. Right.
Right. I know. It's like a word that's thrown around, and then the opposite is actually in the behavior.
Right. It promotes the opposite. They're always talking about inclusion. But when you get into all this over labeling, all these little boxes, it's exclusion. What you're actually doing is you're trying to exclude anyone who's not just like you.
Yeah, who doesn't agree?
People that are only just like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Before you move on to the next one, I just want to go over. I love the bullet points, and looking forward to everything else. I love these slides. I appreciate it. So much to riff off of, but you mentioned satanic and all that stuff, and for people out there listening, sometimes just gotta clear what that means in reference or context to what you're talking about in regards to just like the inversions of what is good and pure and all that stuff like that. Satan is like the adversary, the inversion of God or whatever, right? So when they're trying to infuse those satanic ideas and seed that into the collective consciousness via lamestream television and media and all that stuff they'd be feeding you, that is kind of the issue. And with the people's champions touting around like, oh, these are the role models that people are, these young subjective minds are aspiring to be and all this stuff. And it's sad because some of these a lot of these celebrities don't even know themselves. Also, they're actors as well. They're put up on a stage. A lot of singers don't even write their own lyrics. They have to sign the contracts. They have to flash certain labels, clothing lines, hand gestures that are quite of the Illuminatius, luminous, dim light, false light. But that doesn't mean like they're like some head honcho within the Masonic Lodge or Illuminati, whatever the fuck. They're just
they're puppets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're puppets.
Yeah, and some of them, as I mentioned, it goes beyond nepotism, although that does play a factor sometimes, depending on whose children are born into compromised celebrities, and then whatever, right? And how many celebrities have all these weird, twisted gender role kids and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Another thing I want go for it, please. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say it's so much greater than the general population. It seems like.
Yeah.
With celebrities' kids,
Oh, that percentage.
The ratio
of what's being shown in magazines and the front cover of things every time you go in a store.
Yeah. So it's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just curious. I think this second bullet point is interesting.
Oh yeah. So I was doing some research on this, and I haven't researched it enough to say, okay, I'm for sure. Like, I'm sold on this, but there are a lot of there's been a lot of research in this area that we are hardwired genetically to have a worship gene. So that's why we are so easily swayed to be like this and to worship celebrities or whoever's presented in front of us as those godlike archetypes, because it's literally in our gene.
So interesting. The archetype goes back as early as we know humans existed, right? And so our understanding or building understanding of epigenetics would apply, I think, to this idea, that epigenetically this that our ancestors' lives were pretty dependent on these bigger than life characters that controlled whether they ate or not. The kings who claimed to be appointed by God, the lords, and there was such a hierarchy that to some degree, it would be, you know, to survive, you need to at least kiss their ass.
Bare minimum. If you want to make it bare minimum,
Yeah.
you better at least fake that you love them.
Right.
If you want to. So no, it makes a lot of sense. I like I said, I really want to do some more research on it, because I was like, this is really interesting, because I had heard it before, but like I said, I never really dove really deep into it or like read a book on it or something yet. But it makes so much sense, especially what you're saying with like the epigenetics. It makes a lot of sense that we would be genetically prone to do that, because just based on survival alone.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And then the way that the religions became so just a woven into survival, and the moral, or like what do you call it, the dogmatic shaming around behaviors, you know, and being given these saints, you know, like in the Catholic Church, you know, the nuns, the priests, the saints, you know, to worship at certain days of the year. And that comes really from the pagan gods, you know, gods and goddesses that, you know, going to, you know, give a sacrifice or whatever in order to have good crops, a good season, you know. So much external. It's very much a culture that's built on external locus of control, the worship of something outside of you.
Yes.
That is certainly gotten passed down. The whole belief in government is part of that. You know?
Exactly. It absolutely is. And that, yeah, when you brought that up, it just reminded me, because I went to a Catholic school up until just until the third grade. But even then, that young, I was just like, the stuff that they were, you know, teaching us, I was like, this is like totally not adding up. So it's yeah, because it is just it's just based on, you know, that hierarchy, and you being powerless, and then you have, you know, to make it through, to survive, this wrathful, basically petty God, like the pettiest, it's like the pettiest person ever is supposed to also be God and all love. And I'm like, this is not adding up. Is God this petty, like almost person-like nature, or is it really God all love, like you're saying, and it's everywhere and in all of us? So it never meshed for me. And when I went to college, I went to Marquette University, which is a Jesuit university, but ironically enough, that's where I learned from. We had a phenomenal history professor there, where I learned about the origins of, you know, the main religions, especially Christianity. And I was like, wow, you know, so it was kind of like my mind was blown, because it just then I saw why none of it made sense, because it was all just a control system that they were setting up. It wasn't about God or your spirituality or any of that. It was about control.
Oof, yeah. And they do that in so many insidious ways, right? Especially through savior programming, which is kind of like this religion, and the people's champions and the politricians and all this stuff. Yeah. Hey, don't worry about it, people. We got to figure it out. Just follow the role models and that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's been ingrained in our brains throughout the generations for centuries. Yeah. So.
Yep. Absolutely. And that kind of just leads into the next point. It's an extension of our societal dependence on religious belief systems. That is so entrenched in our everyday life, and a lot of people don't recognize how entrenched we are in religious belief systems with everything. So again, I like to just define terms. So religion is a personal or institutionalized system of beliefs, practices, and devotion. So this is not just about religions that are based on a God. You got the religion of money, of authority, all the different things that we've been talking about. These are all religions because of the way we believe in them and the way we practice them, and our level of devotion is on a religious level, even probably more so than especially with money and authority, even more so. That's a probably deeper religion and more heavily practiced and more passionately practiced than religions based on a God, I would say, just based on observation of people. So yeah,
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very ingrained in what I mentioned earlier, like just evidence of this religious nature, like how devoted we are to this. Look at the number of award shows for actors, for singers, for athletes, the number of reality shows, the number, like how much you pay for a concert ticket or a sports ticket. Try to go to a Super Bowl.
Oh my gosh, the price is ridiculous for
It's
concerts
insane.
in these sports events. You know, I was thinking about that. This is all based on an emotional hook, right? It's hooking people's emotions and then amplifying emotions.
Yeah.
And emotions in themselves are not rational. And so it's creating an imbalance in people's consciousness that is also addictive. It's feeding them a certain the feel-good chemicals, the dopamine and the oxytocin of being part of, like, Lady Gaga's circle, her community, and you get to feel special and not alone, and you have friends, and you have all this instant community, and it's really exploiting people's social and emotional vulnerabilities.
It is.
And it gets people so emotionally leaning that they're not thinking clearly, and they can't take feedback. They're not looking for truth. They're not seeing true things. So you can use the smoke and mirrors to pretty much manipulate their minds in any way you want.
Yeah.
Especially and then you add the music, which is incorporated in all of this, whether it's film or songs themselves. And that is also a subtle and not so subtle way of controlling people.
Yeah, that's right on the money. It absolutely is. So yeah, and it works so extremely well. So they definitely have got this down to a science, I would say. And then we had talked about this a little bit earlier too. It's also a distraction for dealing with self, for dealing with real life, real issues, doing the kind of work that you all are doing. You have busy lives, you have other things to do, but you're here doing this podcast because we have real issues that we have to address if we want to grow, if we want to heal, if we want to change things, if we want to build a new paradigm. That there has to be investment emotionally, physically, of our time, of our energy. And if you're just all into the celebrityism and all of it, it's just a distraction. So now I don't have to do any shadow work. I'm not doing any work. I can just focus on, what Kourtney Kardashian is up to and live vicariously through her life instead of living her own life.
100%. And what would happen if they stepped away from that? How would they feel about themselves? What would give a sense of self and importance? Right. And I fear that's what's missing, is that they don't have a sense of real, authentic self and importance. Living through vicariously through another, and a fantasy, right? Someone's feeding them.
Yep, a total fantasy. And I think also too, I think some people are scared of what they will find if they take that step and start looking inward. I think they're really terrified of what they will find there.
Totally, yeah.
And they don't want to see it. So they do almost anything not to do that work because they don't want to know what's there.
Oh.
So yeah, it's deep. It gets really deep. I really enjoyed putting this presentation together, actually.
Yeah, and your presentation goes pretty deep. So shall we continue with
absolutely.
On the menu? Yeah.
So we have been taught for eons to worship the stars. So this is a quick video that I thought spoke to this point really well.
What's interesting about this is in the Egyptian culture, they also had a little statue that represented the god Ptah. And see, when an Egyptian king died, it was believed that his spirit went into the belt of Orion, and he then became a star. Very interesting that we still follow after Egyptian gods.
I thought that was a really good video, very short, but to the point, that this has been going on for like how long this has been going on, how long we've been worshiping the stars. I thought that was really a nice way to kind of pull it together.
I agree. Yeah, because literally, they're called stars. Their stars are embedded onto the ground that we walk on. Worshiping the ground they walk on.
Yes.
And,
yes.
It's crazy.
It is crazy when you really just sit back and feel like, dang, this is wild that we let this even get to this level. But this slide is just about why it's so harmful to the individual and to the collective. So some of the obvious ones, like, of course, it can lead to aggressive behavior, dangerous, obsessive behavior. You know, we all know of stories of fans actually killing the celebrity that they love so much and is so obsessed with, because they just become so detached from reality, so detached from self, so detached from spirit, based on this celebrity worship. We already talked to about the expenditure of time and energy on something that it's yielding no positive gain for the person, but they're spending all of this energy and time on this celebrity worship. And this one we didn't talk about as much, as far as it encourages immorality and destructive behaviors, because you see within celebrity culture constant promotion of indiscriminate sex without any spiritual connection, drug addiction, molestation, abuse, violence, satanic and demonic glorification, which is really like, it used to be a little more, I feel like a little more laid back. Like now they like literally have on demon horns. Like it's like in your face demonic glorification. And I think a great example of this type of behavior is the whole like P. Diddy scandal, like all the stuff that he was doing all these years. Of course, everyone knew about it. You know, they just decided to sacrifice him now, as far as being a celebrity and sacrificing him. But it's not like they didn't know before. Like, there's no way someone's doing this at this level with this many high up people in their society. They're considered, you know, high up people, and no one knew. Come on, you know.
How interesting you're bringing up this idea of sacrificing the celebrity, right, as a ritual sacrifice. You know, is it that there's the phrase about killing the king or something like that?
Yep.
I don't know if that's exactly the phrase, but there is something occult about that.
Yes.
You know, and I don't know the in depth about that, but I think it's interesting.
Yes, and you'll see them do this, you know, rather regularly, and it'll be timed very strategically when they sacrifice these celebrities, because you know that it's not, like I said, it's not that they just found this out. It's just that it's the right time for them to be sacrificed. And I don't know that necessarily these celebrities know when they're going to be sacrificed like this. I don't think that they may be in on knowing they're going to be sacrificed, but they absolutely sacrifice them in these public rituals of humiliation and everything. So it's wild.
It's very sick.
It is very sick. It's extremely sick. And and then you really never see, you know, any, you know, they're always talking about, you know, justice, and, you know, the everyday average person can get arrested over almost anything. Can't wait to arrest you for just the smallest thing. And, you know, these people are doing some of the most horrific things on the planet, and you never, that celebrity will get arrested and then like no one else. None of them participated.
Yeah. Or they're not arrested, or they're or they're just have a very like slap on the hand. You know, you're right. It's there's an injustice and massive scale there. Yeah.
Complete injustice.
Well, yeah. You know, it takes me back like 20 years ago when I got arrested and went to jail for, you know, having possession of weed, or even selling like a little bit of weed and all that stuff. And I'm thinking about that, like when I'm sitting behind bars, like, man, there's folks like Snoop Dogg and stuff talking about weed and smoking it all the time, you know, and they get to smoke on stage, in concert, in public, on every single show. They can go to any kind of country and get hooked up behind the scenes with whatever they need to, you know, get their groove on and do their thing and stuff. But you're like, hey, we're not privileged to, you know, get a slap on the wrist, you know.
We're not in the club.
We didn't sign our soul, so I'm feel better that way, you know.
And we're not making enough money for the industry either. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's a lot of factors. It's ridiculous, though.
It is.
It is a slap in our face, such a major slap in our face that people seem to ignore. And that's another part of this is these things, these egregious injustices seem to just be accepted as the way it is, and people aren't up in arms. They're not really upset about it that much. It seems to me. It's very brief. and then it's like
Yeah.
you forget and you move on to the
A day
next
or
distraction,
two.
the next drama,
Yep.
right? That they feed us.
Yeah, it's very frustrating because, you know, where is all that, you know, anger and vitriol and all of that stuff for the serious problems? But then, we get punished severely for small infractions. People get really upset over small things like, oh, their reality show got canceled or their football team lost or something like that, and they're just all up in arms. But they're not all up in arms over what is happening to humanity right now. Why is there should be all hell breaking loose right now. People should be that up in arms about what is going on around us, but they're not.
Yeah, it's funny. I mentioned this literally, like 18 hours ago on another podcast of, you remember that meme of the folks, either the guy playing the video game so hard and he's so pissed off because he lost and he, whatever the fuck, or one out of the 70,000 people up in the stands of any given stadium on any given Sunday or Saturday, right? So pissed off, like their day is totally ruined, and even beyond that, because their team lost. Yet you don't see them passionate enough, about things that actually fucking matter, right?
Right. You don't see grown men crying about like a football team losing, but they don't cry when they hear about, oh, there was people that died in a storage container being sex trafficked. That doesn't make them cry. Only the football team losing makes, like,
maybe there's some money attached to their, betting on that shit, but and that's the more of a thing of a new era type of thing.
Yeah. I think that there's like epigenetic dissociation, that with things, with the amount of trauma that our ancestors have participated in, witnessed, how many wars, how many children lost, that there's almost a numbness that is passed on and propelled, through, with our own parents and their numbness and, what they're focusing on. Like, it's more important to go get a grade in school than it is to like speak about or do something about something really terrible going on with your neighbor, or something, it's where the values and the energy being put, and it's all this system where the system's guiding people to go and think about what, just telling us what's important. Right. And then this is all like this entertainment in the background or something that people don't even know if it's true at this point. Sometimes we don't know what's true because of all this obfuscation in the media and the confusion and chaos. And that also, I think, dissociates people. And then they're feeling powerless.
Yeah.
Right?
They're like, well, what can I do? I can't do anything about that. So I'm just going to repress it or dissociate from it. And
turn on TV and smile and feel good watching, a half-dressed celebrity, who's got devil ears.
Right. Yeah. That's a lot easier, I guess, for a lot of people. And that's, that's what we're seeing. And it kind of talks to the next point. It keeps us distracted. You can put your attention there, your energy there. It's, it's unimportant. It's unimportant, but it keeps you away from those things that would, if you really took it in, it's going to stir your soul. It's going to stir something inside of you. And once you say, okay, this is real, what they're doing is real, all the stuff I believed in is fake. Once you accept that, now you have to move different in the world. You can't go back to not knowing, because now you've acknowledged it. You've let what was subconscious or unconscious become conscious. And so people like to, the next point, just stay asleep. And that celebrityism helps people to stay asleep. And when you're asleep, you are the perfect slave. You are the perfect slave.
100%. Yeah. Your points here are flowing super well. Yeah.
Yep. And then we talked a little bit about the divided cocker already, because, it promotes, like you said, Derek, the tribalism, and, you have these polarizing celebrity figures. So like, I can be pro Drake and you're pro Kendrick Lamar. And it's like, don't neither one of them care about you or what's going on in the world, or none of us are going to be okay. Like, they don't care. So why are we even in either camp? So why are we invested in that way? So yeah, it definitely divides us into the lovers and the haters. But I think the worst part is definitely the spiritual and psychological harm that is being done to us through this celebrity worship. And again, they've just become really overt with a lot of these, rituals and things that they do at a lot of their concerts, and like these pictures. I mean, it's like you cannot be possibly more overt than this, that you're on something demonic if you're at your concert looking like this, like any of these. I mean, it's just like right in your face. They're not trying to hide it anymore. That this is what they're on, and this is what they're pushing, and this is how they want us to be. This is what they want us to take in. And I thought this was another great video. I don't know about
people think celebrities
everything she says, but
they don't
just take a listen.
Rituals. They don't realize they're watching possession, and they definitely don't realize how far back this goes or how deep. This isn't new. This began in Kemet, ancient Egypt, where the gods weren't worshipped from a distance, they were embodied. The pharaoh didn't just speak to Ra, he was Ra in flesh. Isis, Set, Horus, Thoth, each had temples, priesthoods, and living avatars. When a ritual was done, it was done to invite the god into the body, through song, through movement, through trance, and the people would gather, sing, and offer, feeding the god through the vessel. Now, the temples are gone, but the structure is still here. The arena is the temple, the stage is the altar, the celebrity is the vessel, and the crowd is the worship. Beyonce channels Oshun, Doja Cat mirrors Lilith, Kali, and Sekhmet. Nicki Minaj doesn't perform Roman, she hosts him. Gaga dresses as Baphomet, Rihanna at the Super Bowl in red is the Scarlet Isis, Kanye calling himself Jesus. It's not ego, it's God-form invocation. But to understand why this works, you have to understand the mind. There was a time when humans didn't think like we do. Before the self, as we know it existed, the mind was bicameral, split. One side gave commands and the other heard voices as gods. This is not a metaphor, this is neurological structure. People didn't make decisions, they heard commands, and those commands were divine. That part of the brain still exists. The ancient part that hears, sees, and feels meaning and symbols is why people cry when Beyonce walks into the water, why people obsess over red stages, winged costumes, and masked dancers, why they feel something holy even if they can't explain it. Because the bicameral mind broke, but the need for the gods didn't. So now the divine is projected outward onto celebrities, brands, music, and screens. Here's where it gets weird. When these stars channel gods, they don't always close the ritual. They invoke archetypes too massive to contain it. Over time, the vessel fractures. That's when you see it. The glitching, the rage, the crime, the lost time, the multiple personas, the alter egos that can't be controlled, the mental breakdowns that never get explained. It's not just trauma, it's overload. The psyche collapsing under the weight of hosting something too divine, too chaotic, or too ancient without grounding. In Egypt, only the initiated could embody the gods. They trained, they purified, they closed the portal. Now, anyone with a label and a budget gets turned into a god with no protection, no ritual, closure, and no memory of who they were before. The body becomes the offering. The mind becomes the altar. And when it collapses, the public watches, still looping the song, still praising the icon, and still feeding the spirit that broke the vessel. And that's the part no one talks about. This isn't just fame. It's modern sacrifice. The gods didn't die, they migrated into culture. And the price of invoking them without memory is the fragmentation of the soul.
I really like that breakdown that she gave on that. I have not studied in depth the bicameral brain. I did look into it a little bit after I watched her video about the theory of the bicameral brain, which is interesting, but I haven't researched it a lot. But that's the only part where I feel like I need to research more. The other things that she said, I feel like we've seen, like with our own two eyes, like many, many times. We've seen exactly what she's talking about with the rituals. And, we see these people literally fall apart before our eyes. Like what happened to so-and-so? Like you see them literally disintegrate before our eyes.
Like Joe Biden?
Yeah. Definitely disintegrated.
So these people are, always, under surveillance, it seems. And,
Yes.
even if they're protected and they got security and they got money to spend on whatever the fuck they need for how many generations. If you're familiar with gematria, which is, studying, symbols and letters, words, names, places, through uh, deciphering
Like the number
words.
values.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There's several people that do a lot of work that unravel a lot of things, especially in regards to certain celebrity deaths and even,
Yeah.
sports teams winning or things like that. Things that are, breaking news level type of stuff, especially. Those are a lot of times some sort of rituals,
Mm-hmm.
apparently, because the
Yep.
numbers and letters add up and is pretty wild. But anyways, that's just to
It
say
is.
that,
I've seen that before. I've seen some videos on that.
yeah, Gematria News Effect. That's a good channel to check out. But
Wait,
I
what's
said
the
that Gematria News Effect, I believe.
I'm gonna check that out. It
Yeah,
sounds very interesting.
guy from Seattle, Zach Hubbard. He actually has a book, Gematria or something by the numbers. Anyways, I mean, it's just to say that, you know, again, with you earlier, that it's more puppets, and
It is.
they, no matter their fame and level of worship and all this stuff, they're still subject to higher uppers that can, throw them under the bus or, blackball them any given time because, why are people on the Jeffrey Epstein list and why are all these other people blackballed? So that, they are held to certain things that, could go against them in the future in case, they need to be made an example of or whatever the hell,
Yep.
right? So,
Yep.
like a ditty or whatever the hell. Folks be getting way too giddy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's also something here where these images that are being fed to people, it's really tapping into something that's within the person, and it's their own shadow self that is hungry for an outlet and responding to it. And I think there's also something that's playing off like our human anatomy and that bilateral brain, and that there is a tendency in humans to be a bit binary, to be like on, off, plus, minus. The whole polarity principle is natural, right? And so that can be exploited, that can be used as a lever to manipulate through this creation of images that people that go very deep as archetypes,
Yeah.
right, in the human experience, and then can be turned into entertainment and influence through it. So I think it's a deeply psychological thing, mechanisms that people are not trained. We're not taught. It's again coming back to lack of self-knowledge and lack of
Yeah.
understanding how our mind-body system even works. And yeah, I think it's very deep. I
Yeah.
think I just wanted to make a reference too to Mark Devlin's work as just a place for people to
I
go and
like his work a lot.
yeah, because he has lots of research into the celebrity world
And books,
and books
musical
and
truth, yo.
yeah. So if people are interested in this topic, I would definitely go to his work as well. And you'll see a lot of backup of what Cynthia's saying here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. Yeah, his work is phenomenal, and yeah, it you'll he is goes so in depth, so you'll definitely see what we're talking about for sure is occurring. So, and like you said, it's deeply psychological and deeply spiritual, and a lot of people, like you said, we just have such a lack of knowledge of self. They don't even know why they're feeling so drawn in, where it might feel even almost like compelled or like uncontrollable, like the draw, especially if you're not in tune with self and your own, your own spirituality. You can get so sucked into these rituals, into this worship, and not really even understand why.
Yeah.
Where is this coming from?
Yeah.
So,
Not to mention the subliminal stuff that we're
oh
not
yeah,
consciously aware of. Yeah, in the
yep,
music and the lyrics and the visuals and everything. Yeah,
yep,
the symbolism.
Yeah,
yeah.
that made
It's
me think real quick, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, Cynthia, because
Mhm.
just like the programming and, the manufacturing of fake popularity, just because there's oodles of money being pumped into the marketing and narratives that are backing it up. Like, oh, this is the latest and greatest, whatever the hell. In France, like, and I struggle with this, learning, certain words, especially like in the workplace, like, like a paper towel roll. There's a mark, a brand called like Sopalin, something like that, and it's not the word that would be directly translated. So I was looking like, how do you say paper towel? Like,
Right.
papier, the serviette. It's like, what the hell? And it's like, no, we just say Sopalin. It's like, well, what is Sopalin? What is it derived from? I was like, tell me what the origin is. I can't find it on etymology online, whatever the fuck. It's like, oh, it's just, finally, it's just, this, popular name brand that, is so popular at the time that, it just became the number one reference for any household. There's no word for paper towel. It's just Sopalin, whatever. It's like, really? Like,
Yeah, kind of like us with Kleenex, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's exactly.
That's just a brand. It's not a product,
hey, voila.
Yeah.
It's crazy, huh?
It is. And we all slip into this, it can be easy to slip into and not notice, especially with so much distraction going on and so much going on constantly around us. It can be hard and stuff can slip past you. Next thing you know, you're caught up in something and you didn't even realize you were getting caught up in it. And I think that happens, to a lot of us, and our energy starts to, get siphoned into people, into activities, and into things that we wouldn't necessarily want it to.
Yes, really well said. I think that's true for the celebrities themselves too, that
Yeah.
they innocently sometimes step into this promise of fame and fortune and sign those contracts and innocently, and then they get in very deep, and
Yeah.
how hard it is then to get out. And
Yeah.
we have a similar problem. We get very deeply entrenched in our beliefs, in our investment, that it's hard to back out.
Yeah. No, I agree, because every time when I see that picture of Sam Smith, because it was many years ago now. It was like when he first came out. My youngest daughter, really liked him a lot, so I had took her and her friend to a concert to see him, and I mean, it was just the nicest concert. He was just like so regular and just sweet, and not, like, it was, to see him now from seeing him then. It's just like, who is this? Like, the change is just so dramatic. It's almost unbelievable that they were able to warp somebody to that degree, so it's kind of quickly too. So
Yeah,
right. It's amazing.
Yeah, scary actually.
I got a question for you.
Scary. Yeah.
It has nothing to do with that guy, because I don't see a whole lot of sources of wisdom coming from his mouth or mentality. But have you noticed that people are easily inclined to seek towards some of these celebrities and stuff, as if the words that are coming out of their mouth are wise and things to live by and all this stuff, and it kind of stems to what you were talking about with that influencer culture that's been cropping up as well, in a sense, right? So
yes,
anything on that?
I think, and yeah, that's kind of one of the points on here, the third bullet. We tend to equate the fact that they're a celebrity, or they're popular, or they're well liked, with being a good person, or a moral person, or an educated person, or a wise person. And those things have nothing to do with each other. Even just someone being an attractive person will put those qualities on them too. Well, they're really attractive, so they're probably smart. They're probably good. They're probably nice. And those things have nothing to do with each other. Absolutely nothing. And we're just automatically giving them the benefit of the doubt, just because they're talented and they're a celebrity, or they have a really good skill. They're really good at playing basketball or whatever. That, okay, yeah, they must also be moral. They must also be a good person. They must also be intelligent. They must also know what's best for me. And the two things just are not at all related. at all. And, people make that association almost without even thinking, just kind of like unconsciously, they make that association.
Would you make an association with, especially like, the high level music artists that are topping the charts and this and that, and the music videos, like, seeing it objectively, it's like, so it seems like the criteria to be at that level is like, you got to be a supermodel and be down to, throw yourself into music videos that are subjected to like soft porn and transhumanism and all this weird stuff. And like, what the what's going on over there? Like,
Yep. Yeah, you have to be, like you said, willing to sell your soul, sell who you are and become, whatever version of you that what they want to put out there.
I have a question for you, Cynthia, and I think it's kind of a hard question, but how do you think that parents should navigate this topic with their children? When normalcy is going to the movies, listening to music on the radio, on the TV, it's so embedded as normal in our culture. And yet as a parent who starts to see these things, what would you advise to them? How to approach it?
Yeah, and that is tough. And I just kind of did what my parents did. I was able to listen to whatever music, we went to the movies and stuff like that. But like constantly, all the time, my dad would just hammer into all of us, me and my siblings. You never worship people. They are just people. They go home and do the same stuff that you do. That is just a person, and you never worship a person. They are not better than you. They are not greater than you. They are not any they're just another you. They just happen to be on TV, or they just happen to be in a movie. They're not better than you in any way. And you never, and so he just instilled that in us. Like from, I can always just remember, I can hear him so clear saying that right now. And so I just did the same thing with my kids, just always reminded them of that. There is a difference between enjoying someone's work and worshiping them, or thinking that they're somehow above you, because they're not.
Yes.
And I think you have to remind your kids of that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially nowadays. Like back then, there wasn't as much, influence. There wasn't so much, social media and stuff like that, because my kids are all grown now. But but they were part of that. Social media was out there, but it wasn't as pervasive as it is now, and there wasn't so many reality shows, when they were younger. So, but I always did that, because when I would see other people, my age or friends or family members like really obsessed with celebrities, and I would just always be like, oh, thank God that my dad taught me to never do that. Never to do that. And I just never even understood it. I'm like, why are people doing that? Why do you want signature? Like, who are they? Like, who cares? Like, that's
awesome.
I like that movie, but they're still just another person.
Right. And they're actors.
Exactly.
And, I think encouraging kids to question things, and, to look for things that don't add up, and think for themselves. The more that we can encourage kids to question and think critically and give them those tools, the better, because there's lots of contradictions and weirdness that is right in front of us that somehow people aren't even questioning.
Yes, no, I agree. And I always encouraged my kids, research stuff. And both my daughters are still avid readers. They love books. Because we always were at the library. We were always, and it's just instilling those things early to learn for yourself, discover for yourself, question things. Don't take so-and-so's word for it. What do you think? What, you look into it. What, what I'm saying? Does this add up with reality? Things like that. And like my youngest daughter, she's 21, and she's very outspoken, on social media about, truth and freedom, and, us, switching to a new paradigm, and stop buying into this current system. And I'm so proud, I'm so proud, and not in a way that I'm taking credit, but the fact that she embodied those messages. She like truly embodied them, and like she inspires me You know, and she tells me about different things that are going on. Like, Mom, did you know this? And I'm like, oh, no, tell me, girl. You know, so it's like, you know, it's amazing, you know, when we empower our kids in that way and we respect them for thinking for themselves and not just saying, I'm gonna think like I think, no matter what. Don't, you know, that's not the way to go, because now you're teaching them how to be a slave, because they're not going to just do that with you. They're going to do that with all authority figures.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, so yeah, that would be my advice. But it's tough. It's hard. It is hard. I think parents have it real hard because your kids are influenced by way more people than just you. You know? So.
Yeah. And the more that you maybe try to coerce and control with an authoritarian hand, the more that kids will rebel. They will.
They will.
Yeah.
They will. That's definitely usually will always backfire on you. Open dialogue, and also just leading by example by not doing that stuff yourself.
Yes.
So your kids don't worship celebrities, but every, you know, Tuesday night you're in front of TV eating popcorn, watching, you know, some ridiculous show and all engrossing these people's lives and following a whole bunch of celebrities on social media. Yeah, you're saying don't do that, but you do it.
Yeah.
So of course they're going to do it. Or even like a lot of people now, and I feel bad for some of these kids. A lot of people now, you know, they push their kids on social media. Like they're trying to make a whole living off of their kid, just putting, you know, like forcing them to perform all the time on social media.
Yes.
And when they perform, just act a certain way or be a certain way, or you know what I mean? It's like
That's
a
so sad. Yeah, Jean Benet syndrome, you know, a bit.
Oh, I like that term. I hadn't heard that before. Yes.
Yeah. Sick.
And it's sad because it's like, man, these kids must feel so like lost, because it's like, when do they get to just be them? When can they just be have the privacy to learn and grow as you should have that privacy of just doing that with your friends, your close friends, or your family, not publicly.
Right. And not to have these unrealistic role models that are very unnatural in how they dress, wear, how they're portrayed physically in the media, the way their skin is cleared with the filters, you know, all of it is like a false,
right,
you know, thing that kids are trying to aspire to be like, right? And so I think catching that young, you know, and really helping kids to embrace themselves as they are in their natural state, you know. Yeah.
And that was something that was a definitely a tough one for me to even get past, is just not feeling like, oh, I always, you know, I have to always be made up or da da da, you know what I mean? Because especially I think a lot of times for women, we feel so judged by how we look as far as our value.
Yeah, no, so it's true. And I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, it applies to even us in a sense, you know, getting on camera and the types of pressures around, you know, how we look. And that just is so endemic. It's just there. That if you're not conscious of and really looking at yourself and saying, okay, how do I want to navigate this? Right. And what am I going to stand for? What am I, am I going to really walk my talk? To what extent?
Right.
You know, it's
right.
Interesting. Yeah.
It is. So yeah, I think this might be the last slide. I'm not sure, but so this is just basically about how do we get out of this celebrity worship trap? And we've kind of talked about some of these things, but the first one, you know, and that's probably the first one because it was first in my mind, because like I said, this is just how I was raised. It's what my dad taught me. Recognize that these are just people, and you are only seeing, when you see them on TV or on a movie or whatever, you're just seeing a curated version of them, but they're just a person. They're not a god. They're not, you know, anything above you or greater than you or more valuable than you. They're just a person. And we always have to kind of keep that top of mind and not get sucked in, you know, to that curated persona and start believing that that's real. Because like you said, it's not. That's not how they really are. That's not a real person. And then a lot of it too has to do with our belief, that religious belief in hierarchy. someone has to be better. I'm not that great. So of course there's got to be tons of people better than me or more valuable than me. And that's how we're literally trained to think. That there's got to be people better than you, more valuable than you. The hierarchy must exist. So letting go of that whole religious belief is a big part of getting out of this worship trap, when you start to see that we are all of one. We are all part of the one consciousness. So no, they're not more valuable than you. And we have to, really get back in tune with ourselves to see our own inherent value, the value of just self, just because you are part of that one, that this beautiful creation. You're part of that. And it's so beautiful if you really just take it in. Like, this is really a beautiful experience. Yeah, it's tough when we have our challenges, or, we're trying to do all these things and change the paradigm. But if you just take a step back, this is a beautiful, beautiful experience. And we're beautiful beings, and we have these bodies or avatars or whatever you want to call it, to be able to experience all this beauty in what we process as a physical form.
Yeah. It's like the miracle of life itself is incredible. And we get to witness it every day.
Yes.
But I think that in individuals, because of the culture that is indoctrinated us, really is separating ourselves from our own value of just being alive and having this really miraculous body that we get to walk through life with.
Yeah.
And then it's like not enough. We're kind of trained in a sense that it's not enough. We're born sinners, or we're dirty, or something is not okay about us, and we always have to sort of seek to become better. And what's being given to us, right, are these weird celebrity odd characters to think that that's what we're supposed to be like, to be better or something. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. The more we can become like them, that means I'm moving up in the game. I'm getting better and better because I'm more like so and so now. And it's
I'm going to make the money to buy the brand, and do the nails,
and the butt injections, and I'm going to do all these things to be, just like this person or that person. And it's like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with being you? There's only one.
It's interesting. I was at the I was traveled a couple weeks ago, and so I was at the airport, and I saw several people who clearly had their bodies like unnaturally altered.
Yeah.
The butt, the just the way that their body was sculpted was something beyond just natural, like results of exercise and diet. And also in the face, the lip injections and this sort of slight distortion, enough that I could recognize it, but from the kids' naive points of view, they would probably think that's so beautiful. Why aren't my lips like that? How come my butt isn't like that? And it's very slippery slope.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Derek.
I was gonna say, because my ex-wife from Tahiti, like, she had a pretty good gluteus maximus and huge lips that she was kind of ashamed of growing up, this and that. And I had no problem with it. I was digging it, but and we had so many laughs of how she was ashamed of that when other people in the Western worlds are like paying oodles of dollars for so it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Where's the happy medium, or just like, where's the natural beauty that folks can just be satisfied on and not be influenced away from and astray from their true divine essence?
Yes.
What happened,
So much jealousy and envy, right? Always thinking that it's someone else, is got the thing that you need to be better. So the self-esteem, it really does come back to a lot of self-esteem issues and self-value lack.
Yeah, it does. And there's so much focus on the exterior and like hardly any focus on what's inside. Who cares if you look beautiful on the outside if your heart is stone? You know what I mean? If you have no joy, if your life is miserable, does it really matter if you're beautiful?
I don't think those people are happy,
They Their heart ain't light as a feather. That's for one thing.
Right.
It's all stone. Yeah.
Yep.
Where the
So
Mayottes, that.
it's a mess. And then we already kind of talked about the third point. And then the last point I want to make is just really embracing the principles of natural law, which, that's what my podcast is about, natural law, because we have to start asserting our sovereignty and our freedom and release this need to worship anyone or anything, period. Just releasing that need. And I feel like it starts to naturally release when you really start embracing natural law. It just starts to dissipate because you understand that it's not you don't gain anything as far as spiritual evolution or, you know what I mean, ascension or wisdom through that. It doesn't serve if you want your journey to go a certain way and you're trying to move towards the light and really change this paradigm, you will see that worship doesn't serve you.
Yeah. Can you briefly share maybe a story from your own life of how the principles of natural law helped to free you from some of maybe previous, hang-ups or false thinking?
Oh, yeah. Because I definitely, it was kind of like a slow progression for me before I really kind of got out of the mind. I want to say the mind F. That
you can say it on our show.
The mind, put on us. So it was kind of a slow progression, but one of the main things that really helped me, I guess, really get out of it more fully is when I understood that principle of one. Because with me, I always kind of felt like, well, I was attached to that, I guess, that authority and that hierarchy thing, because, someone has to be in charge because someone, you know what I mean? So once I started to be able to really let that go, I feel like that was the real turning point for me. So then when I was introduced to natural law, I was able to actually embrace it and not resist it, because it brought all of the little pieces I had kind of, all together, if that makes sense. Because I felt like I had all these little pieces of the puzzle, like, well, this seems off. Well, this doesn't line up. Well, we definitely should be doing this. Like, what's wrong? Why can't we get out of this? Why do we stay stuck in this cycle? And really, I kind of came to that point through dealing with grief. I had to start to find a way. I had a lot of kind of major losses in my life starting pretty young. When I was 12, my sister and my niece were both murdered. And so I started dealing with like serious grief really young, and I didn't know how to deal with it, because we're definitely not taught how to deal with grief very well at all. We're taught pretty much the opposite. So it was a very destructive force in my life. And then when I lost my dad in 2006, it was hitting me really hard. And that's when I said, I started really figuring out a way to look at stuff different. I said, I got to start looking at things different. I can't keep going through this, because people are going to transition. They're going to pass away. And so am I. So it can't be this thing where it's, just completely destroying me every time. So, and when I, started, reading certain books and, researching things and looking into other ways to look at it, and started to understand that, we're eternal, and we're all this same one energy. So you're just transitioning form, but you never are gone. You're never gone. And if we're all one, how can there be a hierarchy? How can there be an authority? We're all of the same. Yeah. So I guess that was kind of probably one of the biggest things for me, is me trying to figure out how to deal with grief really helped me transform my life, because I had to. I was like, this is not going to work the way that I'm dealing with it.
Yeah. So very spiritual recognition, that we're beyond our physical material self. And how that spirit is a link, a factor that links us, right? You know, like the air we breathe, and that what we do matters. And it's a very deep study.
It is, and it still, it still took me a long time, and it helped me. I got better after my dad, but when my husband, unfortunately, of 27 years, passed away 3 years ago. This month, actually, May 6th, and that loss was like no other. So that challenged me in ways that I didn't know, honestly, that you could be challenged as a person.
Yeah, it's a lot of loss.
It was, so it really, and that's when it just really, I was even able to embrace it even more, everything even more. And that's when I started my podcast shortly after he passed away, because I said, all this pain and this grief, I can use this energy, but in a different way.
Yeah, it's beautiful work you're doing. Yeah, we're really glad that you came and joined us here.
Yeah, this was so awesome. I love this. Thank you guys so much for having me. Let me turn off this screen share.
Yeah, it looks like Derek got it off.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is a really fun conversation, and actually so relevant and so multi-layered. It's a good talking point, really, to teach a lot of things, I think. Silly cat.
This was amazing. I appreciate you guys for having me on, and all the amazing discussion. I could talk about this kind of stuff all day.
Yeah.
Would say Natty Law. I love Natty Law.
Hell yeah.
Tell us where. Go ahead,
please. Cynthia, once again, thank you so much. I love your introspections and reflections on life, society, and the sciences of all those things on a whole, and bringing some flavorful, backed slides that we usually don't get with a lot of guests. So I just want to acknowledge that and honor you and your efforts. And yes,
thank you. I definitely appreciate that, and
as we do.
And I would love to have both of you on the show at some point soon. Pick a topic, tell me a topic, and we can make that happen, because this was a great conversation. So I would definitely appreciate the energy and the sharing.
Yeah, I would love to do that and support your show and be on it and have more conversations. Yeah.
Yeah. So please, with that being said, sorry to cut you off, Leslie, and little kitty over there. Cynthia, tell folks how to affirm their lives daily.
All right, go to affirmlifedaily.com. You can follow on social media at Affirm Life Daily. On the website, there's the Natural Law Podcast, there's affirmations, there's poetry, there's a resource page full of books, videos, websites, documentaries, all that good stuff. For you, if you're on this journey, it can definitely help support your journey of awakening, or you're learning more about natural law, and all that feel good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate the energy that you're bringing. I really encourage people to check out your work. So
thank you. I'm honored to be here, and definitely infinite grace, love, and gratitude to you both. And this was awesome. This was a greatest thing.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody, for watching. It's another Dissolving the Divide. Take it easy.
And just real quick, we'll be taking a little hiatus for a little bit. A couple months. We'll be sprinkling little things here and there, but in the meantime, please check out Cynthia's website, and also there's a newsletter. You can just sign on, get emails. She has her Telegram group chat as well to tune in live during her live streams of her podcast coming up. Soul Expression is, fellow brother that we've had on.
He's almost like a co-host. He's always on.
Yeah.
Best insights like ever. I love it.
Yeah. Great human being, as are you, and Leslie as well. I really appreciate your time, energy, focus towards this topic with your knowledge infused into it. So, much love, y'all.
Bye, guys. I gotta run. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Turn it to another degree.
Keeps me going, hold me toward the light, heads me toward good level door, replenish side, the water, whoa, murky rows of rocks, the walls, pursuing time, crash, down, to come and meet another. Inside, outside, here we dance. Motion, turning trance and out, in and cycle. One cycle upon another cycle. Yes, you untold drearies. Yes, you reveal dreams. Views of past expression now brought to our attention. Very throughout in parallel, others in divine indivisibility. Brought back to mind. Sworn by the mindset that all those free to the nation believe from the Almighty goddess and